What do the American soldier, Good Samaritans, Mark Zuckerberg, and Pope Francis have in common? Well, in the past few years, they've all been named Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But here's one of the top contenders this year, the Ferguson protester. Now, Jonathan, should people who loot, riot, and destroy property even be considered for such an honor?
Well, I mean, Time obviously thinks so, Eric. In fact, even if the protesters don't make Person of the Year, Time published an article defending rioting as a tool of social justice. And today, protest means anarchy. I mean, it means blocking traffic and throwing a brick at Starbucks and getting arrested. That's considered justice. This whole shut it down meme, I mean, what is it? It is nihilism. It is celebrating destruction for destruction's sake. So it's not like they want to have the convenience store. They just don't want you to have it. They don't want to have anyone to have it. That is the destruction, the anarchism of our age.
And Wayne, Jonathan makes a good point. We should distinguish between protest. Protest is absolutely guarded in the Constitution, First Amendment to the Constitution, but not ruining people's property and lives and businesses.
Well, that's true, and I think Jonathan makes a good point in that sense. You can't make the man of the year. In other words, the criteria for this is who has influenced the news the most. So I think the media is probably at fault here. I mean, you could make Al Sharpton the man of the year, for God's sake, because he's influenced the news, you know, but that's not beneficial to anybody. I think that they do us a disservice by saying this, and I think Jonathan is absolutely right to promote violence and to promote obstruction and things like that is violent and not nonviolent is a bad thing.
That is both points are absolutely absurd. Let's go back to elementary school vocabulary. Protesters and looters are not the same thing. I like the fact that they want to focus on protesters. It was multi-generational, multi-ethnic, and for the most part, we're talking about real issues that we can actually work on today. And the fact that so many people got blamed, so many of the millennials got blamed for being out of touch and being apathetic. You saw them hit the streets here and in Ferguson. Help me understand,
is throwing a brick at a police protest? Would you define that as protest?
No, when we talk about protesting, I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about peaceful demonstrations that are calling attention to issues. So looters and protesters are not the same thing.
John, hang on a second. Here's the problem, though. Time literally said, let's call it Ferguson protesters, where we can see there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of property destruction. Businesses were literally burned to the ground. Michelle, should they, or maybe they could reconsider and call it the protester, incorporate New York? New York has been, for the most part, a very peaceful protest going on in light of the Eric Garner case.
Well, look, this is why no one reads Time magazine except when they're in the dentist's office waiting for their appointment. These people aren't protesters, okay? They're criminals. They burn down businesses. I don't think if you talk to the business owners, they would say that these people should be Time Person of the Year. What they're doing is they're basically saying these people are good people and that we should look up to them and giving them media attention that they don't deserve. Why not honor a business owner, an entrepreneur, Uber, who has changed our lives? Why go for these criminals?
First of all, you can't equate Uber with the protester, and that is real. But it's interesting that as we're talking about protesters, we're not showing images of clergy members and community members that were standing in front of the stores to protect them from looters. Yeah, but that's what I talk about. That's what's happening there.
They specifically said Ferguson protesters.
That's fine, and the Ferguson protesters include those community leaders, those elected officials that were standing in front of the stores protecting property and protecting other people. There were peaceful demonstrations. They're not looters.
For the most part, they were not peaceful. They were burning down businesses.
And what is the whole idea of those people who are engaging in that form of protest, right? The businesses that they're burning down, they're evil. But the folks burning down the businesses in today's culture, Eric, they're seen as moral. They're seen as
nobody is talking about a moral ground for people that are defacing and burning down property. We're talking about folks that were protesting peacefully and talking about changing institutions.
Why don't we address that? See too much of that.
Address that.
Is that what the stepfather suggested?
Go ahead, Wayne.
I was going to say, I don't think you can say that his father was his father-in-law standing up saying, "Burn the down is a protest. That's inciting a riot, my friend.
And he's being investigated for which he
apologizing doesn't change it.
Once the riot is taken, everybody said that was wrong. Everybody said that doesn't change it. Once the guy's incited a riot, apologies don't help you, pal. Yeah. If you're in a theater and you shout, you know, fire in the theater, that's against the Supreme Court has made a decision about that. Let's pull apart that guy from the majority of people that were there that were protesting peacefully and calling out the department to make changes.
Let's do that, and let's hope Time, if they make Ferguson protesters the person of the year, they do specifically say the protesters, not the rioters, looters, and the people who destroy businesses. We got to go. Coming up, just as gas prices are coming down, lawmakers are teaming up to pump up prices again. And get this, they say Ronald Reagan would want it too.